What's going on, guys? We are here for the first NFL game of the weekend. The Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. Myself and Mr. Bryson Owens. Guys, we are going to jump straight in here, bringing you guys some winners, bringing you props, totals, spreads, everything that you need to know for this game. Let's jump on in here. Dallas Cowboys, 5.5-point favorites at home, where they are on a win streak, Bryson. They tend to play well when they play at home. Detroit Lions, though, they're getting 5.5 points here on the road. Feels like a pretty heavy number. Do you think 5.5 points here on the road is too many to give them?
It does feel like a pretty heavy number, like you mentioned, but I can see why the sports books put it at that number because, like you mentioned, the Cowboys are incredibly good at home to the point where they're undefeated this season. They're 7-0. They put up basically 40 points per game at home on offense. Their defense only allows 15.5 points at home. And meanwhile, Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, they're not the same team on the road. They're a pretty good home team. When they have the Detroit fans, they're not the same team on the road. Jared Goff specifically only averages about 258 yards per game on the road. He has 10 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. So his touchdown to interception ratio is worse. His passer rating is worse on the road. And he's going against this Cowboys defense that is, when they're on, it's one of the best defenses in football. The one caveat to that is, and this is why I know I mentioned I get why they put it at 5.5. I actually like the Lions at the 5.5 because the one weakness that the Cowboys defense has been exposed to the last couple weeks on this 2-game losing streak they're on is you can run the football on these guys. The one weakness to this defense is they are not good when defending the run. They are 19th in the NFL in defending the run at 115.7 yards. The Detroit Lions, third best rushing team in football with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like that running back duo, I can see them causing some trouble to this Dallas Cowboy defense. I don't know if I like the Lions enough on the money line, but I think 5.5 points to what you said earlier, it's too many points. I get why they did it, but I think that they're setting this up for the Lions to have a really good chance to backdoor cover this one.
I like what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, man. This could be a pre-playoff game matchup that we're seeing right here. I could totally see these teams meeting in just a couple weeks in the playoffs. Cowboys, obviously, all season it was like a 41-point average at home, so they ball out at home. But guys, the Lions 3-1 in primetime football games. They show up in the big games. It does scare me though. Bryson mentioned it. Jared Goff on the road, not a recipe for success. I have faded him on the road multiple times this year, and it has paid me out very, very nicely. Even when they're favorites on the road, it's paid out nicely. Now that they're dogs on the road, though, I'm really starting to think about it because my problem in this game is I think the Cowboys either win barely, or I guess you could say lose barely, or they kick the living crap out of them. And I don't think the same can be said about the other side. I don't think Detroit walk up in here and beat them by 10 points or more. I don't see it happening. So I will throw out there, I'm looking at a parlay in the same game parlay in this game. But before I get into that, if I'm forced to pick all my chips in the table here, I think I would take the points with Detroit. However, if I had to pick a money line right now, I would say Dallas. I don't think that Detroit walk up in here and pull off this upset. But Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, I love Sam Laporta. If those guys can pick up Jared Goff a little bit and really start to get into a groove, I think they have a serious shot here to make this thing ugly and to pull off the upset. But my same game parlay here, would love to hear if you like it or not. I'm going with the Lions plus 11.5 points and the over 42.5 points in this game, minus 110. So lose by 11 or less, 43 or more points. Does it hit?
I do really love that play because, like you mentioned, I mean, we both like the Lions enough on the 5.5. So you're getting basically a whole extra touchdown without the extra point afterwards. And I mean, I just mentioned the Dallas Cowboys put up nearly 40 points by themselves at home. So now you're just asking the Cowboys to get close to their average. Let's say they get to 31. So they have a bit of a down game at home. Now you just need the Lions to be able to put up close to their average in general this season, which they put up 27.5 points. So let's say it's let's say, like you mentioned, it's 31-24. It's a big Cowboys win on paper, but the Lions covered covered the 11.5, and it's well over that 42. So I'm right there with you. I think that's a no-brainer.
There you go, guys. We're going with the same game parlay, -110 on BetMGM. Get that in now if you can. And then I do want to ask you, wrapping up this game, your favorite touchdown score in this one. There's 2 guys, technically 3 guys, at minus money, but this other guy, you can find him plus money on almost every other book. CD Lamb is the favorite, -160. Tony Pollard, -125. David Montgomery is -105, but I found him at +125 on other books. Everybody else at plus money. Who is your one guy that you say this guy's getting in?
I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs, especially at those odds. He gets better odds than David Montgomery. And if you look at Jahmyr Gibbs the last 3 games, he's had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He had 2 last week against Minnesota. He's on a roll right now. I mentioned the one weakness that the Cowboys defense really has at home, especially, is defending the run. So if the Lions want to keep this a competitive game, I see Montgomery and Gibbs getting a ton of carries in this game. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs, with how hot he's been around the red zone, I think they're going to feed him. He can also catch the ball really well out of the backfield. So he's got that in his game as well.
Ooh, I like your pick. I'm going to go here with a Dallas Cowboy. I was going to go with the other tight end, but I'm going to go with Jake Ferguson anytime at +125. I still love me some Sam Laporta, but if I think the Cowboys are going to win, we've both talked about how many points they score at home. Jake Ferguson has not gotten in multiple weeks, but his volume is there. Catches the football. I think he makes a difference in this game. They finally get a little lazy on Jake Ferguson and go, he's not a touchdown threat. That's the game he scores at +125. So good luck to all of you guys in that one. Should be a fun one on Saturday afternoon.